The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the best partnership since Vidic and Ferdinand. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Stephen Bradley is calling for the cavalry in Tallaght Stadium because Shamrock Rovers find themselves 5-2 down on aggregate to Flora Tallinn in the playoff round of the UEFA Europa Conference League. Sappinen has capitalised on some horrendous goalkeeping from Alan Manis to give Flora Tallinn a 1-0 lead at Tallaght Stadium. They're into the final half hour there. Rory Gaffney has just come on for Dylan Watts. Shortly before that, Richie Towell came on for Danny Mandrew. And Shamrock Rovers, if they had an uphill task going into tonight's game, that uphill task has gotten very, very steep indeed. They have half an hour plus stoppage time to find 3 goals, and that's just to force extra time. We'll talk to Stephen Doyle a little bit later on and get his views on the match as well. He is live at Tallaght Stadium. Steve will be giving us a full-time report. We'll also hear how Steve will get on with one of the 3,500 people that are at Tallaght Stadium tonight. That is the Republic of Ireland manager Stephen Kenny, ahead of next week's World Cup qualifiers, which begin with a game against Portugal in Faro next Wednesday night. We'll be getting the Portuguese angle on things as well with Tom Kundert, who is the Portugal correspondent for World Soccer magazine, and one of the lucky people who are going to be attending the game from an Irish point of view, and hopefully doing a whole lot more besides as well from an Irish perspective, is Dara O'Shea, who joins us on the line. And Dara is just 2 goals away from being the Championship's joint top scorer so far this season. Dara, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This crack of being a goal-scoring centre-half, it is a nice new wrinkle, nice new addition you've had to your CV over the course of the last 4 games. It's a little bit unusual, I think, for yourself, given the goals ratio that you've had so far in your career, but I think you'll absolutely take it so far.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll take whatever I can get, and obviously adding goals to my game is something that I've needed to do, and I mean, 2 have come in a short space of time now, but I'm hungry to get more.
West Brom have started the season so far pretty well. Valérien Ismaël has come in there, obviously from Barnsley, come in with his own ideas of how to run things. You seem to be somebody who benefits from working alongside a former centre-half as manager. It happened with Slaven Bilic, obviously, with your breakthrough there to the first team, and now under Valérien Ismaël. Give us a sense of what Valérien is like as manager, because I think people might be somewhat familiar with his career. I know he had a brief spell at Crystal Palace, which people might remember, but beyond that, I think he really had an Indian summer at Lens and then at Bayern Munich. He's taken what he's learnt and put it into his coaching career, it seems. Yeah,
I mean, he's been a breath of fresh air since he's come in. He's a manager that we kind of needed after coming down from a tough season last. He's been great. He's been very intense. Brought a lot of fresh new ideas. It's front foot football that we're playing, and it's something that it's great for the fans to watch, but it's also great to play in too. And obviously, him being a former defender as well, it's excellent for me to have someone else who I can pick their brains.
Has he been that kind of manager, that kind of one-on-one, giving everybody their own time? Has he put special emphasis on the likes of yourselves in defence to kind of pick your brains or allow you to pick his brains as well as regards what way he wants to play football?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there was a bit of both. He come in and he kind of said the way he wants to play and listen to the way that the way that we wanted to play also. But he's very set in the way he wants to play, and I mean, it's really exciting for us. Like I said, front foot defending, and for me as a defender is music to my ears. I like playing on the front foot. I like being aggressive, and he's brought it in throughout the whole team, and it's been positive since he's come in, and hopefully long may it continue. Yeah, that air of positivity, I'd imagine, was probably needed, because it seemed like a long L schlep last year throughout the Premier League. Under, first obviously under Slaven, and then with Sam coming in terms of trying to pick up the morale of the squad, which hasn't changed much, I don't think, over the course of the summer, but in terms of trying to pick up the morale of those players that did go down, how has it been kind of getting to grips again with the Championship? Yeah, look, obviously last season didn't go the way we wanted to go as a group of players, and I think this season again it's the same group, similar players there, and not much has changed. So I think we kind of had to take the positives from last season and kind of build on them. Look, we got promoted with a similar squad to the one we have now, season before last, and I think we've got to use that to our advantage. And look, we've got great players here, and we know what the league is about. It's a tough league. There's lots of games come. They come thick and fast, and I think you can't really look too far ahead in this league. And we've been kind of just taking each game as it comes, and I think that's the best way to look at it.
You seem to have, I'm not going to say exactly mirror, but you have very strong similarities with a side like, say, Norwich, who went up playing decent football. Things didn't work out for them immediately, but they have maintained the nucleus of that squad, both the one that went up initially, the one that played in the Premier League then, and then the one that had to regain promotion from the Championship. You find yourselves in a similar boat. I mean, you mentioned there the squad hasn't changed much from the one that gained promotion to the from the Championship a couple of seasons ago. Having that experience ingrained in the squad has got to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Obviously, everyone's familiar with each other. There's no real big changes as such. The same characters are there. The changing room is still the same, so it kind of makes it that bit easier. Obviously, having worked with each other for the past few seasons as well, it just builds that unity that you need in the group. And obviously, with such a long season, it's vital that you have a good changing room, you have good lads around you, and everyone's pulling in the same direction.
People mention that, like, the nature of the season, and you mentioned there the games coming thick and fast in the Championship. You got 46 to get through before you can, even countenance what's happening beyond that. Is it that much more noticeable, or especially, I guess you would have noticed it more so last year when you're, it's greatly reduced. You're playing every week, or you might be playing once every second week, but it is a case of you really don't have time to think in the Championship in terms of the next game coming down your way.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, last year is almost like a luxury having one game a week sometimes, but the games come thick and fast in the Championship, and I think it's great as well because, I mean, if you win a game, you have to dust yourselves down. You can't get too high on that, and you've got another game coming in a couple of days' time. So it's tough. It's tough mentally. It's tough physically, but it's great, and that's really where the whole squad comes together. So you can't just have 11 players in the Championship. You need to have a full big squad, and everyone needs to play their part in it.
You kind of had a little bump in the road last night against Arsenal, but I realise it was a much changed side, and priorities are what they are, and the Carabao Cup might necessarily be on top of Valerian's hit list. But also the news, I guess, came last night that Callum Robinson, your teammate, had again tested positive for COVID-19. How's Callum? Do you know if he's like asymptomatic or symptomatic, or what his form is like? I'd imagine you two are pretty close, having gone away on Ireland duty together, coming over from West Bromwich.
Yeah. Obviously, we're very close, and he'd contracted it before as well. So I think he's okay at the moment. Obviously, it's early doors since he's got it, but he's obviously going to be a huge miss for us and at the Ireland setup, and for West Brom as well. He's a massive character to have around, and he's been in great form lately, scoring goals, and it's something that we will miss.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard Stephen talking about it earlier on, Stephen Kenny talking about the vaccination situation. Like, what's the talk like on the ground as regards squads? I'm not going to ask your own personal situation, that wouldn't be fair, but is there much talk among squads about vaccinations, the pluses, or people what they might perceive as minuses of them, or is it everybody kind of keeping their head down as an individual thing? Do you hear from club doctors, etc., about these things?
Obviously, it's up to the individual whether or not they want to go ahead with it. But the offer is put there by the club. Everyone has the choice to go and get it, and obviously there's pros there. The gaffer kind of has emphasis on it with us at West Brom about getting it and having that vaccination, because it could come to us in good stead later on in the season. But obviously, it's to the personal choice. Obviously, each individual is different. Some people want it, some people don't, and I think that's just the way of the world.
Yeah, but is there like talk, like we were talking about it earlier on, in terms of if people have doubts, you'd imagine there will be, football clubs have the ability to bring in doctors and to bring in people who might, allay any fears that people might have about these things. Was that the situation with West Brom, or was it just the case that the manager had a word with you all and said what he'd prefer?
No, we've had club doctors in speaking to us, giving us the pros and cons of it, and kind of putting people's questions at ease as such. I think a lot of people are quite unsure what's going on, and obviously to have the professionals come in and step in and kind of say their piece with it it's good for the players. Have you gotten used to operating within that kind of COVID-19 situation? Because most of the last year and a half of your career has been lived, like almost your entire Premier League existence was done in this kind of COVID bubble. Have you gotten perversely used to the situation there? I know things in England are a little bit different, but have you gotten used to the care that you have to take in terms of being a footballer around these things? Yeah, I suppose most of my career, really, my professional career at West Brom has been under COVID, and it's been tough. like you said, I have got used to it. It's become the normal now. Can't really go about things as freely as maybe I would have done before COVID, with the risks there. Like I said, I have to look after myself if I want to keep playing, and I want to stay healthy and give myself the best chance. So I have to look after myself as best as possible. I have to weigh up the risks and make my choices from that.
Do you kind of have to really alter how you do things outside of football then, in terms of looking after yourself and being careful about where you go and how you spend your free time?
Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of just need to weigh up the risks with it. Obviously, there's negatives to stuff, and maybe I can't do some of the stuff that I'd like to do because the risks are there, and that's it. But I mean, I'm a professional footballer. I'm paid to play football, so I need to be at my best. I need to be fit, and kind of from myself as well. I want to be the best I could be. So missing time isn't really an option.
Yeah. Do you think that year last season in the Premier League has stood to you in terms of your own progress? I know things were not necessarily exactly how you'd want them to go, but having that experience in your back pocket now and in your locker and knowing what top flight football is like, that's obviously got to be a massive boon to you going forward. Yeah,
I mean, that experience is going to be invaluable to me. Like, it's unbelievable the amount I learned from there. Obviously it didn't go the way I would have liked it to go, or the way the team would have liked it to go, but as a young kid you grow up wanting to play in the Premier League, and I had a taste for that now, and it's pushed me on even more and made me maybe even more determined to get myself back there and play at a high level. I mean, the players you're coming up against on a weekly basis is amazing, and I want to test myself against the best players. So it really just kind of whetted my appetite and showed me where I need to strive to get to and stay at.
Yeah, and you've been through a fair tranche of managers already, and I guess they're all different in their own individual way. I know Slaven had a really good relationship by all accounts with you when he was bringing you through to the first team, and he always spoke pretty highly of you.
Yeah, I mean, I owe a lot to Slaven. He gave me my debut. He kind of brought me into the first team step at West Brom and believed in me and had faith in me to play me. And I mean, since he put me in, things have gone on the up, and I mean, I've made my debut at Ireland. I've kicked on. I've done lots of things. So it was amazing for a manager to have trust in me at that age and belief in me and play me.
How did things differ under Sam Allardyce then?
Obviously the season was tough. The results weren't going our way, and I suppose he's a different manager of sorts. Still a really good manager. He came in to do a job. Unfortunately, the job didn't get done, but as well, I learned a lot off him too, him being an ex-defender as well, and sort of an old school manager as such. I learned different things. Two different management styles is different. It's good for me to learn, and I think for me learning all this at a young age, it's gonna put me in good stead for the future.
Yeah. He can be kind of painted as an old school and a kind of an abrasive kind of figure. How was your personal relationship with Allardyce?
Yeah, I mean, I got on really well, to be honest. I think he liked me from the start as well, and I mean, I worked hard for him. I never really let him down either. Obviously, there were instances in the season where maybe I was taken off at early stages and stuff like that. But I mean, he spoke to me. He said there was nothing personal in them. It was more of a tactical change. So we had a good relationship. Yeah,
we've had a bunch of texts in. Obviously, when we mentioned that you were going to be on the show, a lot of people want to get in contact and get your different views on things. I guess chief amongst people's views and what they're looking forward to is next week. And a texter asking, is Dara looking forward to getting touch tight with Cristiano Ronaldo next week? He'll need to get working on his vertical jump. That's got to be a dream come true stuff to be marking, or possibly marking someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, but also have the reality of it being a job to do and a World Cup qualification campaign that the Republic of Ireland really need to start salvaging starting from next Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. It's another opportunity to get points on the board and go out and play for your country. So it's massive. I think first and foremost, there is a job to be done, and that's Portugal there in our way. And I mean, you can look at their squad and you can name their players, and yeah, it probably will be a dream to play against some of them players or line out beside them. But I mean, that's what you want as a player. You want to test yourself against the best players. And I think as a nation, we want to play against these teams. We want to see where we are. We've got great quality. Maybe results haven't gone our way in previous games in the campaign, but I think it was a work in progress, kind of. There's players coming through. The gaffer was implementing his ideas, and the last camp in Spain really helped us out as a group, got us more together, more united, and I think everyone's really looking forward to it.
Yeah, the summer seemed to put a real I guess, a kind of a more positive spin on things as regards the Andorra result. And then as the summer went on and as the Euros went on, that draw with Hungary looked better and better, and that kind of proved that the side can absolutely dig in when results are necessary, and that might necessarily be what you have to do next Wednesday. How has morale been? Because you'd probably be aware that there's been a bit of negativity around results, but how has the actual insular camp been like?
Yeah, inside the camp's amazing. I haven't really been involved with a team that's been as together as that, especially that camp in Spain. It was great to get all the lads together, kind of for the different age groups as well, and kind of people maybe becoming friends and getting closer to lads that they wouldn't have been in the past. And obviously it was great to have that time on the grass as well with the gaffer to kind of give us a bit of breathing space and actually focus on things that we want to, rather than preparing for the next game as such. But like I said, yeah, we're all just really looking forward to it. Obviously, the Hungary game was nice. We thought we put in a good performance and played well against a good Hungary side that went on to do well in the Euros.
Yeah. As regards yourself, like we've seen kind of Stephen, vacillate between different systems. There's been back threes, there's been back fours. Which one do you kind of feel more comfortable in, or is it much of a muchness for yourself?
Yeah, I feel comfortable in whatever formation. I think at this stage I've played across all positions, to be honest, and whatever formation the gaffer plays, I'm happy to play that. I trust his judgment to pick the right formation and the right team. So I think, he's got a wealth of knowledge. The two formations have been good. He's been implementing his ways. They may be different than would have played under previous managers as well. So it's been good. Has
Anthony Barry made much of a difference on how things are set up?
Yeah, Anthony's obviously come in. He's been great. Fresh as well, fresh ideas. Bringing little things in that maybe weren't there before. He's a great coach, obviously, and he's a good guy too. So it's nice having that energy around the camp.
Is there a kind of an overall aim for these next three matches? Is there, like you often hear people saying that they'd be delighted to get maybe 7 points out of 9 or whatever. What's the actual goal for this squad heading into those trio games next week?
I think the goal is to win every game. You'd be lying if you said you weren't going out to win a game. I think we have to look at it from a clean slate. Really, we have to look at each team differently. Obviously, the first game is the most important game because it's our next game, and that's where the emphasis will go into. See how we get on in there. We're going to put a good account for ourselves, and we're going to hopefully do the country proud and come out with a good performance and hopefully 3 points. And I think then we can look towards the next game and take it from there. Yeah,
fingers crossed. Dara, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, taking time out to speak to us this evening, and best of luck with the rest of the season with West Brom.
Cheers, thank you.
There you go, it's Dara O'Shea, the West Brom and Ireland defender. It is Shamrock Rovers 0, Flora Tallaght 1. 11 minutes to go in Tallaght Stadium. Rovers still needing 3 goals just to force extra time. Tom Kundert will be giving us a special view on Portugal up after the break. And don't forget, football and Off the Ball is with thanks to Paddy Power. For more information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power, brightening up your evenings like Jurgen Klopp's teeth. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Ball on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power, the best partnership since Vidic and Ferdinand. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Now, this time next week, we will be digesting the results of Ireland's latest World Cup qualifier, which takes place in Faro. They're going up against Portugal and their star-studded squad. But joining us on the line to look ahead to that game and to a little bit of other news involving somebody Portuguese is Tom Kundert, who is the Portugal correspondent for World Soccer Magazine. Tommy, very welcome to the show. Our initial intention was to merely preview this small matter of a World Cup qualifier, maybe the breaking of a world record in terms of goals scored in international football. But the man who is potentially breaking that world record, it looks like he's going to have a new club between now and kick-off in Faro in 6 days' time. Cristiano Ronaldo appears to be on his way out of Juventus.
Yeah, well, let's wait and see. Could happen, couldn't it? It's I'm always a little bit wary of, jumping the gun on these transfers. But it's certainly lots seems to be gathering, doesn't it? The rumours suggesting that will happen. And if he does end up at Manchester City, that will certainly make things interesting.
Yeah, absolutely it would. There appears to be a sense that Juventus will be quite happy to have him off the wage bill, that he might have come towards the end of their road, at least, because they want to look at a more sustainable model in terms of wages and in terms of profiles of player, let's just say, put it that way. To head to Manchester City seems like an interesting move. Paris Saint-Germain have distanced themselves a little bit this evening from potentially making a move for Ronaldo, but you'd have to say they would be tempted given the lay of the land, and especially the Champions League draw that we've just had this evening as well, where both clubs have been pitted against one another.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? I was just waiting for Milan to be put in that group as well. An absolutely incredible group. But it's everybody, of course, talking about PSG. I'm really interested to see how they do, because Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar, obviously three of the most amazing players in the world, but none of them really like to defend that much, and you can normally get away with one or two of those players on a team. I'd say two maximum. Three, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. If Ronaldo went there again, I mean, in terms of the team structure, it would be amazing to watch, but I'm not sure how they'd make that work. But of course, I suppose you can ask the same kind of questions at Manchester City if Ronaldo does go there, because we all know that Pep Guardiola's sides are all about, pressing and, just high energy, basically all over the pitch, including the centre forwards or whoever's up top. And that doesn't really fit Ronaldo's game, does it, nowadays? So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if he does end up at Manchester City, how Pep will kind of fit him into his team.
Does the transfer talk around somebody like Ronaldo, would that be the kind of thing that would affect him in terms of going into next week's fixture in Faro, or is he just this kind of, he's so driven that any kind of outward distraction, even if it is the upheaval of moving from Italy to England or Italy to France, that he can just put it out of his mind and play the next 90 minutes that's in front of him?
Yeah, no, I don't think it would affect him one iota. I think that's the secret of Ronaldo's success, really, his mentality. He just, it doesn't really matter what's going on. He's really somebody who's, naturally attracts controversy, isn't it? A lot of it, not even off his own making. And, anything that Ronaldo does is a little bit like royalty, isn't it? It just gets front page news. It's flashed over the front page of the front page or the back pages or both sometimes. And he just doesn't, it doesn't really seem to affect his performances at all. Also, if he has a very bad match, which doesn't happen very often, but if he does, it just doesn't affect him at all. The next match, he can bang in a hat-trick. So I don't really think whatever happens between now and then, I don't think it will affect Ronaldo at all in terms of this, the next Portugal game. Yeah,
Tom, you're filling us with confidence here as regards what's going to await Ireland in Faro next week, because as you may or may not be aware, our results haven't been too hot over the last couple of years. And I guess when Euro 2020 ended, or at least Portugal's Euro 2020 ended, we saw Cristiano Ronaldo equaling Ali Dai's all-time World Cup or all-time international goal-scoring record, and everybody thought, fair enough, he's going to go and break it eventually. We then looked at the calendar and realised that Ireland was the next fixture and the next target for Cristiano Ronaldo, and we could well be a footnote in terms of a world record being set in Faro. What is the Portuguese view of Ireland heading into this fixture? We've gotten the usual platitudes today from Fernando Santos of their, pretty workmanlike, and they like how to dig in, and they're almost like an English side. We're kind of used to that kind of stuff. Would Portugal be looking to brush Ireland aside in 6 days' time, or are they taking us a little bit more seriously?
Oh, definitely taking Ireland seriously. And I think if I kind of made you wary about that little intro about Ronaldo, I think you only had to look at Euros, the recent European Championship, to see that Portugal themselves aren't really in an ideal place at the moment. And they do tend to struggle against teams like Ireland with all due respect, perhaps not the star names in their team, but teams who are, basically quite physical, very hard-working. And I suppose you can say a bit more of that old traditional British style. I think that's the kind of style which does tend to disrupt Portuguese sides, or the Portuguese national side. And like I said, if you look at Portugal, they've got this amazing array of talent. They've got players like, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Ronaldo, of course. Unfortunately, Joao Felix is injured, but you got Diogo Jota. It's just top players playing in top clubs, really all around the world. But for Portugal, it really hasn't come together at all. Fernando Santos hasn't managed to find the right chemistry, hasn't been able to kind of harness that amazing talent, especially from the attacking point of view. So I wouldn't, if I was Ireland coming into this match, I'd certainly think that, they've got a chance of disrupting Portugal, making things difficult for Portugal. And also, if Portugal don't start well, I wouldn't, this is the first game with, it will be with Portugal playing in front of their own fans, of course, for a long time. And the Euro didn't really go down very well at all here. So I wouldn't be surprised seeing the crowd getting a bit restless and getting a bit edgy if Ireland can hold Portugal at bay for perhaps the first half or longer. Yeah,
I was just going to ask about Fernando Santos. It's an interesting one because obviously you buy a lot of credit when you win a European Championships, especially when you're an underdog as they were in 2016 in France. There was a sense going into this tournament in the summer that Portugal had one of the better squads at the Euros and that they could really do some damage. There was that wobble against Germany. I think a lot of people said, listen, it was an off night. And then we've seen, you put it into context of what's gone on this year so far. You add in that defeat to Belgium, which, Portugal were very much, I think, the second best side. I think most people would agree to that. And they haven't pulled up any trees either in this World Cup qualifying campaign. I mean, yes, they're unbeaten so far, but it was just a 1-0 victory at home to Azerbaijan. As you mentioned, teams can make it difficult for them. Serbia held them to a 2-2 draw, which is the exact same result as we almost got over there. And then you Portugal, who took the lead against them. Now, we fell to a defeat to Portugal when they took the lead. But those are the kind of things that put pressure on a manager when you've got that array of talent and people are wondering why you aren't having Bruno Fernandes play the way he is for Manchester United versus how he could play for Portugal. Like, what has been the reaction to Santos? Is he kind of on borrowed time? Is there a willingness to let this play out as far as he's concerned? Or is it somewhere in between?
Yeah, I'd say it's somewhere in between because you're right. Portugal have never ever won a major tournament, and of course won Euro 2016. Then they won the inaugural Nations League straight after. So that did get Fernando Santos an enormous amount of credit. He's a national hero. I think even if he does lose his job in the next year or two, he will always be remembered as a hero just for what he achieved. But having said that, you're absolutely right when you point out those talents. Everyone agreed here in Portugal that this squad going into this European Championship was far stronger than the Portugal squad, which actually won it in 2016. So expectations were really high. And really, in none of the matches, Portugal really hit top gear, take away maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes against Hungary. And so, even against Belgium, it's interesting there. That's the way you read the game against Belgium because I think I'd agree with that, although a lot of people here said it was Portugal's best performance. They were attacking the whole time, but I think that's more to do with game context. They went a goal down, so they really had no option but to pull forward. But even so, they didn't really create enough chances. There just seems to be a real lack of cohesiveness, and Fernando Santos is naturally a very conservative coach. He showed that throughout his career, even in club management. Then at Greece, where I suppose you can say it's more understandable with less talented players maybe, or not such an abundance of talented players to work with. But people just say his management style doesn't suit the talent which he has available. And so, it's getting louder and louder, I'd say, the calls for the FBF to make a change. It's going to be, it is definitely going to be, that's one thing I was saying if I was in the Irish camp, that's something you've got to try and play on, I think. Just try and keep Portugal at bay for the first 20 minutes or first half if possible. And I think they really could start getting nervous and, maybe a bit disorganised. And maybe Ireland can take advantage of that because at the moment, Portugal have really been playing like a bunch of very talented individuals thrown together without much of a plan. Yeah. And, sometimes it works because, Bernardo Silva produces an amazing through ball or Cristiano Ronaldo scores an amazing goal. But it hasn't really convinced many people more. I'd say Fernando Santos' supporters are getting less and less day by day.
This is going to sound like a perverse question because clearly he's still one of the best players in the world, but would that Portugal team, and I mean like team with a capital T, would that be better without a Cristiano Ronaldo as the main focal point, and you could then have people like Ruben Neves who have a little bit more room to breathe, Bernardo Silva has a little bit more room to breathe and doesn't necessarily have to feed the beast as Ronaldo has been, and deservedly so for the last 15 years, but essentially that era is ending, and you know it didn't work particularly well in the Euros. So there is a sense that they are going to have to move on and find another way of playing and find another way of scoring goals. Is it almost a sense that they would be a better team without him, and they would flow better without him?
Yeah, it's a question which is being asked in Portugal, I'd say increasingly, especially because on the few occasions that Ronaldo hasn't played, Portugal have actually tended to play better, as a team or more cohesively. But of course, Ronaldo remains Ronaldo, the greatest Portuguese player of all time. And, just breaking records galore for his club side and for the national side as well. And he loves playing for Portugal, and he's the captain and the figurehead. So it really is going to be interesting and really quite a difficult conundrum, I think, for Fernando Santos, for the Portuguese setup, and even for Ronaldo himself. He doesn't really want to ruin his legacy. I think it'd be impossible to ruin his legacy, but maybe tarnish his legacy by, kind of becoming a hindrance to Portugal. I'd say we weren't at that stage yet, but he's 36 now, and that there will come a time when that inevitably happens, when Portugal, to be a stronger team from the start, should start without him. I think maybe, I'm not sure if Ronaldo is ready to do this at the moment, but I think perhaps in the future, one thing we could see is Ronaldo remaining in the Portugal team, but maybe not starting. Imagine Ronaldo coming on for the last 30 minutes against a tiring defence. I think that might work quite well. But saying all that, Ronaldo was top scorer in Italy last year, wasn't he? And so you can't really say his powers are that diminished at the moment. And basically, it's a bit of while Fernando Santos is the coach of Portugal, I think it's a bit of a non-question because, he's asked this time and time again, and he just always insists, Ronaldo first name on the team sheet. They've got a really good relationship, those two. And so I don't think that will happen unless, Ronaldo will not be anything but an automatic starter for the foreseeable future, at least.
Is the Portuguese expectation that they win this group?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think they'll be very disappointed with anything other than winning this group. They had a bit of a setback against Serbia, of course, the last game. I don't know if you recall, Ronaldo scored a legitimate goal right at the death, but there was no VAR, and the ball had clearly crossed the line, but it was ruled out. And so, Portugal are very aggrieved at that. But just again, looking at the players, this is why I suppose Fernando Santos a little bit a victim of his own success, because Portugal have had so much success in the last 5 years internationally in their national team, and then since then club players, a whole series of club players have really gone on to shine at some of the biggest clubs in Europe, in the world. And so people kind of automatically feel that this success should be continued, or maybe we should even expect more out of the Portugal side in terms of, how they've been playing. And so, anything other than top spot will definitely be seen as a big disappointment in this World Cup qualifying. Yeah,
we're used to Porto and Lisbon being the two big hubs, I guess, of football in Portugal. And that's borne out by the Champions League draw again today, when all three are dotted throughout the groups. But what is the Estadio Algarve like in terms of a venue and in terms of its supporters? Because the Algarve, as we know, is a different kettle of fish entirely in terms of its attitude and its outlook. What kind of place, what kind of stadium, what kind of atmosphere can the Irish players expect next week?
Yeah, it's a lovely stadium. It's a really nice stadium. I don't know what the situation is actually on travelling fans. I don't know if there will be any travelling fans.
There won't be any. But it's just in terms of what awaits in terms of the differences of the supporters.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's a bit of a white elephant because it was built for Euro 2004, of course, that Portugal hosted. But it doesn't actually have a club side which plays there regularly. Occasionally, there's a few sides in in the Algarve, like Faro, a smaller side called Lowlens, and a few other, and I think even Orleanense, another Algarve side, have occasionally used it. But it's not their home pitch, and so it's used really just for a few showpiece matches per season. There's usually the August or the September international is held there. Portugal play there. Also, the Super Cup has been held there. The season curtain raiser has been held there a few times. It has actually hosted a few other international matches. I think Gibraltar were playing their home matches there for a while. But yeah, it's a nice stadium. It's really nice. Architecturally, it's quite a stunning stadium, really. It's built in it's supposed to resemble the sails of a ship. And it's a little bit out of town, out of Faro. It's about 10 kilometres outside Faro, not exactly on the coast. So it's a little bit in the middle of nowhere. But and it's quite an open stadium. But of course, usually like I said, there's no home supporters there, so it's usually a bit of a festive occasion because, of course,
they're just delighted that everybody's in town, essentially.
Also it's because it's held in summer. A lot of people who are on holiday end up going to the stadium. You see quite a lot of families there and everything. So I wouldn't really say it's a hotbed of football,
right?
But yeah, it should be a nice atmosphere there.
Good stuff. And I'd imagine there will be one or two Irish holidaymakers who might well have found their way upon tickets before kick-off next Wednesday. Tom Cunder, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a preview of what we can look forward to in Faro next week. There you go, Tom Cunder, the Portugal correspondent for World Soccer.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the best partnership since Vidic and Ferdinand. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, where the football chat flows like Jack Grealish's hair. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Yeah, welcome back to the Football Show. Irish involvement in European football this season is at an end. Shamrock Rovers have fallen to Flora Talon at Tallaght Stadium, and there for us tonight was Stephen Doyle.
How you doing, Richie? Yeah, it was a disappointing night for Shamrock Rovers. It finished Shamrock Rovers 0, Flora Talon 1. The goal came the 57th minute. It was a mistake really in the midfield by Danny Mandroyu, who gave the ball away to one of the opposition players, and then was picked up by their central midfielder Konstantin Vasilev, and he managed to feed that ball forward through to their striker Rauno Sapinen. And Sapinen hit a kind of a punched effort across the box, and it was one Alan Manis, the Shamrock Rovers goalkeeper, should have saved. He tried to shovel it out with his hands, and it just went under his body, and it was just a really poor goal for them to let in. It was really the story of the tie, I suppose. Their manager, head coach Stephen Bradley, said really there was a lot of sloppy goals given away, and that was the same with the goal tonight. So disappointing again. Flora Talon absolutely delighted, first Estonian club through to a group stage in Europe in this Conference League. They get the €3 million bounty. Sadly not for Shamrock Rovers. And then just a matter of a small cup tie against Bohemians at Dalymount Park this Sunday. But tonight, it's finished here at Tallaght Stadium. Shamrock Rovers 0, Flora Talon 1. On aggregate, Flora Talon go through 5-2.
Cheers, there you go. Stephen Doyle at Tallaght Stadium. We'll be getting a reaction, I imagine, as well from disappointed Stephen Bradley. Stephen's been busy today in his fancy penguin shirt as well. Earlier on today, he got to sit in with the Republic of Ireland manager Stephen Kenny, who had just announced his squad for next week's World Cup qualifiers, starting with that game in Faro against Portugal and then following on with games against Azerbaijan and Serbia at the Aviva Stadium. Stephen was asked in the press conference, Kenny that is, about vaccination levels within his squad.
And I know it's in the news elsewhere. What level of vaccine coverage is in your squad? Like, have most of the players had a vaccine, or they still not had, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, well, obviously a number of players have had vaccines, and you know, some haven't. Some have had one. In England, the AstraZeneca vaccine has quite a long period between the first and the second. So a couple of players have been caught with the first one. And some players have decided not to get it, so that's where it is.
And those who have not decided to get it, have you been talking to them about it? Have you been encouraging them to get it? Given, like, for example, you know, if they're vaccinated, they wouldn't have to isolate as a close contact, for instance, under UK rules.
Yeah, and that has happened with a player, for example, who had one vaccine and hadn't got the second one, and wouldn't have had to isolate. But that is that's the situation that we are. Like, ideally, we'd want everyone vaccinated, but players are men as individuals, and they have the right to make their own decisions, and you have to respect that as well. And so in an ideal world, we would prefer to have everyone vaccinated, and that wouldn't be an issue. But you have to respect the individual wishes.
Hey Stephen, just ask you about Gavin Bazunu first. His loan move to Portsmouth seems to be working out fantastic. 3 clean sheets. That must give you a bit of confidence going into these games.
Yeah, Gavin has been really, really impressive now. He got his opportunity in March, probably because Darren Randolph had been injured and Queven Keller had been injured. And he came in, and such a young keeper, it was his first time in the squad, and he did really well, and been very good in the 3 internationals he's played, and as you say, he's gone to Portsmouth and kept 3 clean sheets. So confidence is high for him, and that's a good sign.
Dara O'Shea, the other man at West Brom, has been playing very well this season as well. He's got 2 goals, not bad for a centre back. How do you think his mindset has changed now coming into this camp when he's in a team that's really fighting at the top of the table rather than fighting relegation last season?
I think Dara, one thing about Dara is very level-headed, and I think he doesn't fluctuate in terms of his form or his emotions. And I think even when they were struggling last year, West Brom, at the wrong end of the table, he was still performing to a good level. And now he's just, every day you know what you get with Dara. He's just very consistent every day in training. He's focused, he's professional, he's got a good mentality, and he's brought that into his training every single day. And successive managers have seen that. So it's his 3rd manager at West Brom, and they've all selected him, and he's just been very, very consistent. And I think so. I was there. I was at the game. He scored against Sheffield United last week, and it was great to see it. And he started the season well.
You might have to get somebody on long throws.
But he has one himself.
Yeah,
he has one himself.
Just we know you're at Brighton as well. What have you made of Shane Duffy's turnaround? There seemed to be a perception of Shane Duffy that he wouldn't fit into this Brighton team because he's not a ball-playing centre-back. Well, he seems to be kind of making nonsense of all that over the last couple of weeks.
Well, it is a challenge for him because he was a very consistent player for Brighton for quite a few seasons, and there's an evolution of the style there, and certainly he has to adapt. And I think he really likes being at Brighton Football Club. He's been there quite a while. He feels at home there. He's gone and done pre-season, had a good pre-season, played in every game, taken that form into the league, and started the first 2 games. And you're right, you've seen him beat Watford last week, and he scored a good goal. And it's always an additional bonus for Shane that he gives value with goals also. So fair play to him.
His teammate Aaron Connolly has been struggling on that front since bursting on the scene in that game against Tottenham. He had a great chance at the weekend, which he didn't score. His manager said back in April that he's a little bit too self-critical. Is that something you'd find with Aaron Connolly? Is that his problem?
Well, I think he did burst on the scene with the 2 goals against Tottenham, and they were very well taken goals. He couldn't score for a while after that, and then he beat himself up by the fact that he couldn't score. But that's par for the course with a young striker. I think last week, it was good to see it live because he played very well in the game. It was a really good display. He came on at half time when Mopé got injured, and he made a lot of very good runs, and he certainly played a contribution in the victory for sure.
Can you or your coaching staff, do you think, help him on that front, try and get him hitting the back of the net again?
I think he's working hard every day, and he scored in pre-season, and he was unfortunate that was only one chance. He did very well. He was just so unfortunate that didn't go in, and he moved his feet really quickly, struck it too well, and just so I've no doubt that he's well capable of scoring goals.
And just finally, the Portugal game, unusually down in the south of the country. Most of the football in Portugal happens up north. Is that something you think was deliberate, and they want to kind of get Ireland down into the south of the country in hot temperatures and maybe give themselves an advantage in that sense?
It's something that I hadn't considered, to be honest. I don't think that is the case. Obviously, there are other reasons. I would say it's been, you know, I don't think they're trying to have a competitive advantage over us. I think they, you know, they are the previous European champions, and obviously Portugal are the Nations League holders, and they've been very consistent over the last number of years. They've got a quality team, and it's a big challenge for us, and one that we should embrace, and should look forward to going to Portugal. It's a great game for the players. We should really be excited about it, and you know, we're looking forward to that.
There you go. It is time for the end of the show. It is Shamrock Rovers out of Europe, as we should say, and there is plenty to come on tomorrow's OTB AM and indeed on OTB. Tomorrow night on the show, we'll be focusing on Tyrone might upset the odds at the weekend. We'll have the latest from Tokyo in our Paralympics update with Niamh Tallaght, and we'll have Friday night racing with the man known as Fish. That's jockey Mark Enright. And on tomorrow morning's OTB AM, Sam Wallace from The Athletic will be discussing Pep, Ronaldo and Harry Kane, plus Louise Galvin on Kerry versus Tyrone. That is just about our lot for tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.